Earth Moves, The Furnishing of Territories, was written by the independent theorist, architect, furniture and industrial designer Bernard Cash in 1995. The book was translated by Anne Boyman, a senior lecturer in French at a college in New York, and was edited by Michael Speaks, a professor of architecture at the University of Kentucky. Bernard Cash developed the concept of non-standard architecture in his book Earth Moves. This concept was given the name objectile by Gilles Deleuze in his book The Fold. In 1996, Cash founded a design and architecture workshop practice in Paris called Objectile, together with his partner Patrick Baus, in order to conceive and manufacture non-standard architecture components. Cash researches the use of digital tools and computational techniques for architectural conception and production, called non-standard architecture. Series of objects are once similar and yet all different, a little like the way each dune in the desert represents a particular variation on the same morphological theme. These non-standard objects are not designed or drawn, but calculated by computer and industrially produced by digitally controlled machinery. Cash has played an important alternative role by delving into history, philosophy, and mathematics to uncover the relationship between today's computational and material technologies and the traditions of the past. He applies research into characters such as Plato, Euclid, and recently Dürer to inform today's production of architecture. After developing his theories, Cash published Objectile in 2007 and Projectiles in 2011.
The main theme of the book is the definition of the image itself, as well as the architectural image. The author says this text is a classification of images. The first topic he writes about is to redefine the image. In the introduction of the text, Cash states, "Our brain is not the seat of a neuronal cinema that reproduces the world. Rather, our perception is inscribed on the surface of things, as images amongst them. From this we can understand that our view of our surroundings is as a reflection of our interpretation of them. Therefore, our way of seeing is crucial to our understanding of space, architecture, territories, and everything else. This is why he aims to redefine what an image is, to improve this understanding and reimagine it." Cash argues that every surface is formed from a combination of hills, valleys, and in-between points. These can be read as vectors, frames, and sets of inflections, which are the key terms within the text. Images can always be read as abstract and mathematical elements. This is because all physical elements can be simplified into pure geometric forms, from which a vector can be drawn. By looking at the city of Lausanne in France, Cash demonstrates how this process of redefining a landscape can be done. To start with, he interprets all the variations of the landscape into geometric shapes. Further, based on these shapes, he translates an action of a vector that folds into an abstract line of the terrain into a diagram of the topography of Lausanne. An inflection is the in-between point, the point that marks a change in direction on a line, or the point that marks a transition between two states of variations, like the inside and outside, or the top and the bottom. This is the part of a process or an image that is ignored by most, even though it is, according to Cash, a significant element. He criticizes how most of us focus on maximum and minimum. We always strive for the extrema, whereas the points of the change between two extremes don't receive much attention. The frame Cash describes is not defined as a physical frame that surrounds an image. It's rather the instance that allows for the viewing of vectors and inflections, and creates a relationship between image, present, and reality. In a cinematic setting, the frame would not be the edges of the screen, which would be the common understanding of the word frame, but the screen and the light that is projected onto that screen. The two main images discussed by Cash are the territorial image and the architectural image. Territory is defined as surfaces of variable curvature bearing diverse singularities, where a singularity is A, an extrema, or B, a stage or point of inflection. These singularities are embraced by the orographic map, which focus on the inflection of landscape rather than the plains, which often gets the most attention in other illustrations of territory. Architecture is defined as the art of the frame, hence it allows us to see. Architecture serves three main functions according to Cash. The first function is separation, which is the role of the wall. It closes spaces and creates boundaries. The second is selection, which is illustrated by the window, allowing for a relationship between two separated parts. The third function is arrangement, which is the interval of the in-betweens. So what is the point of this re-evaluation of the image and our way of seeing? The message of the book is fairly unclear, and initially we struggled to see why it would benefit to adapt this theory. But after further discussion and analysis, we reached a richer understanding of the necessity of the theory. Indirectly, it seems that Cash states that if we manage to redefine images into a set of abstract or mathematical instances, we would be able to perceive our surroundings without identity. According to Cash, identity is a negative notion that prevents potential development. By removing identity from the image, one opens for infinite opportunity, and this could be what his theory aims to allow. The text can be viewed as a formal and philosophical study of architecture. However, this would only describe the basics of the text. In addition to considering the main issues, he also considers art, film, interior, objects in general, and various other elements in his argumentation. And his theory is something that, according to him, applies to everything. It is mainly a set of definitions that one can agree or disagree with, which are redefined repeatedly and investigated throughout the book, and altogether introduces a new way of reading our surroundings without identity, which essentially, Cash argues, allows for infinite change and creative possibilities. If the theory presented is ideal as Cash suggests or not, is a question of subjective response. The book leaves me wondering why it's desirable to free one's perception of surroundings from identity. The way it allows for infinite change is interesting, however I do struggle to see the benefits from dealing with boundaryless possibilities and unlimited opportunity, regardless of how appealing it might sound as an idea. Also, I'm a bit deterred by how personality and people are eliminated as factors. I believe identity is one of the essential elements when developing space, so why one would attempt to remove identity from architecture is to me a mystery. It seems like Cash occasionally has become too engaged with simplification and depersonalization of the image, resulting in a fairly too simplified understanding of architecture, objects, image, territory, and so on.
Folding philosophy was introduced by past French philosopher Gilles Deleuze for the first time. Cash offers what is today the only delusion architectural development of the fold, a form and concept that has become important over the last few years. For Cash, as for Deleuze, what is significant about the fold is that it provides a way of rethinking the relationship between interior and exterior, and between past and present, and between architecture and the urban. According to the fold philosophy, there is no preference in the universe. Folding is looking for diversity, and it wants to eliminate the hierarchy. The goal for this philosophy is eliminating duality. Folding architecture is also named New Baroque. In Baroque architecture, Greek, Roman, Eastern, Gothic, and Classic are folding on each other and the body of construction. And curled surfaces of walls are flexible in relation to condition. The infinite fold separates or moves between matter and soul, the facade and the closed room, the inside and the outside, the high and the low. Everything is being divided into folds. One can see this on many new architectural designs today.
Cash structures the text into a series of chapters. Each chapter begins with a section in italics which describes either a geographical territory or a piece of furniture Cash has designed himself. Other than the descriptive writing at the start of each chapter, it only occurs in the text when these abstracts are referred to as an example within the text. There is little definition of words, especially as Cash uses the text as a classifier of images, and has said he aims to form a new language and dialogue within architecture. Often there is need for definition of words, especially when the language becomes more mathematical. The main modes of writing within the text are division and classification, where Cash distinguishes between inflections, maximum and minimum, inside and outside, and then groups them together. To compare and contrast, where Cash finds the similarities between topics, such as the orography of a territory linked with the mathematical view, which can be comprised of inflections and extrema. Analogies. There are very few analogies within the text, and out of context they seem strange. But talking on the things in life which can escape or capture, Cash writes, like when an eel slithers out of the grasp of the fisherman's hand. And finally, iteration. In the text, Cash constantly reiterates his ideas about inflection and of maximum and minimum points. This is one of the key aspects of the text, and Cash talks about it in every chapter. Cash's presentation is very effective in allowing us to understand what he is imagining. The use of text along with simplified line sketches allow us to easily see what he wants us to. He breaks down the illustrations of complex theories into ones which can be easily understood, such as landscapes and inflections along a line. So, what next? From reading the text and the subsequent analysis and discussion, we have found there to be 3 different aspects which we could focus on to formalize an essay question. These are the relationship between the interior and exterior, the importance of furnishings and objects within a space, and the focus of in-between or inflection spaces. After further discussion, we were all interested on the topic of the in-between spaces, as it seems to be something which is often neglected in architectural design. This led us to formulate our question for consideration. To what extent should architects focus on inflection spaces, as these are the spaces people travel through the most? Thank you for listening.